Life unfolds as a relentless battlefield. In the words of Carl Jung, we grapple with this constant duality, night and day, birth and death, happiness and misery. However, at the heart of this conflict lies a friction within ourselves, where we simultaneously confront our greatest ally and our most formidable opponent. As the dual nature of our being unfolds, with elements propelling us towards personal growth, warring with those that might hinder our progress. It's a constant tug-of-war between the facets of our personality that urge us forward and those that shackle us in place. This internal conflict shapes the narrative of our lives, determining whether strength and goodness will prevail or weakness and destructive tendencies will take the upper hand. Our greatest ally emerges in the form of elements propelling us towards growth, self-discovery, and positive change. These facets encourage us to confront challenges, learn from experiences, and evolve into better versions of ourselves. Simultaneously, our most formidable opponent resides in the shadows, the aspect of our personality that we often shy away from acknowledging. It's within this uncharted territory that our faults, weaknesses, and darker tendencies lie dormant. Many of us, fearing defeat and discomfort, employ psychological defense mechanisms to remain blissfully ignorant of this darker side. Unwilling to confront the shadows, these aspects are relegated into the unconscious, giving rise to what Jung aptly termed the shadow. When our actions reflect elements of the shadow, such as mistreating others or engaging in self-destructive behaviors, the tendency is to resort to projection. Rather than facing responsibility for our actions, projection becomes a psychological refuge, attributing these elements to others. Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung both recognized projection as a defense mechanism, shielding individuals from the anxiety induced by facing their faults. So let's look at the dangerous consequences of ignoring your shadow. Unmasking the hidden foe, the shadow's influence. So in the depth of our psyche, obscured from conscious awareness, lies the shadow. The shadow is not a passive entity, but a dynamic force that exerts influence over our personality in a myriad of unforeseen ways. It emerges as the consequence of our reluctance to acknowledge the destructive side of our being. When we act in ways influenced by our shadow, perhaps treating others poorly or scrummaging to self-destructive behaviors, the tendency is to evade responsibility through projection. Rather than facing up to the shadow's influence, we project these darker elements onto external individuals or groups, a psychological phenomenon that shields us from the discomfort of self-confrontation. While positive and negative characteristics can be projected, a prevailing tendency is to project the darker aspects, as observed by Sigmund Freud in the 1890s. He viewed projection as a defense mechanism, shielding individuals from anxiety provoked by acknowledging faults, weaknesses, and destructive tendencies. Carl Jung, in alignment with Freud's perspective, deemed projection as both inevitable and necessary for psychological development. It serves as a primary means through which we gain awareness of elements residing in our unconscious. However, Jung's emphasis lies in subsequent steps, recognizing the subjective origin of projections, withdrawing it from the external world, and integrating the shadow's elements into conscious awareness. This integration, while challenging, becomes crucial in the battle of life. Failure to confront the shadow leaves these elements unchecked, free to grow in scope and influence. Jung's insight emphasizes the perilous consequences of desperately striving for an idealized self-image. When one relentlessly pursues perfection, the shadow descends into the realm of destruction, becoming a force much like a devil or a demon. For those that heavily rely on projection to shield themselves from their shadow, live life in the perpetual need for scapegoats. Often a friend or a family member becomes that chosen scapegoat, leading to damaged and strained relationships. The pattern of driving away scapegoats only for the problem to remain leads some into introspection, but many opt for the search for new scapegoats. The collective fallout, societal perils of projection. When individuals heavily rely on projection to shield themselves from the shadow, a dangerous pattern emerges. Often entire groups become targets for projected problems. Jung's insight into the collective dangers of projections and the potential for manipulation by those in power emphasizes the urgency of recognizing and rectifying these patterns for the well-being of both individuals and society. The perpetual reliance on projection often shifts from individuals to collective scapegoating, revealing extreme societal consequences. Individuals unwilling or unable to confront their shadows become vulnerable to collectivist movements, seeking ready-made scapegoats in political opponents, different ethnic groups, or social economic classes. The allure of scapegoating at a collective level lies in its capacity to shield personal relationships from damage. Limited interaction with the scapegoated group prevents the realization that these individuals differ significantly from the distorted images held in one's psyche. The choice of political opponents, different ethnic groups, or social economic classes as a collective scapegoat creates division and fosters an environment rife for conflict. Jung's insight into the tendencies of collectivist movements to exaggerate the flaws in their opponents emphasizes the potential for persecution, violence, and even extermination of the scapegoated group. Furthermore, the danger escalates when those in position of power exploit the collective tendencies. Propaganda, false flag, and manipulation techniques are employed to divert attention from the internal issues, effectively casting blame on the convenient scapegoats. Jung's observation warned the greatest danger to human civilization lied not in the weapons at our disposal, but in our inability to understand ourselves. Jung believed the perils of widespread projection on a collective level could lead to global conflict. And what better example could there have been than many of the events of the 20th century? His solution. So we can combat the dangerous consequences of ignoring our shadow by first acknowledging the existence of this aspect within ourselves. Embracing self-awareness allows for a deeper understanding of personal faults, weaknesses, or destructive tendencies that lie hidden in the shadows. Taking responsibility for our actions is essential. Instead of resorting to projection, we should confront the influence of our shadow directly. This involves acknowledging when negative behavior emerges and addressing them without attributing blame to external factors. Recognizing the subjective origins of projections is crucial. Understand that projecting onto others is a way of coping, but it doesn't absolve you from personal responsibility. Withdraw the projection from the external world and integrate the shadow's elements into conscious awareness. Integration requires facing the discomfort associated with acknowledging the darker aspects of ourselves. Whilst challenging, this process is vital for personal development and preventing the shadow from growing unchecked in scope and influence. Avoiding the relentless pursuit for an idealized self-image is crucial. Jung warned against the dangers of perfectionism. Striving for self-improvement is commendable, but it should be balanced with an acceptance of our imperfections. On a societal level, we should be wary of collective scapegoating. Understanding the potential for manipulation by those in power and the societal perils of projecting problems onto entire groups is paramount. Recognizing the distorted image created by collective scapegoating prevents division and fosters a more inclusive society. Ultimately, combating the effects of ignoring the shadow requires a commitment to self-reflection, personal responsibility, and an understanding of the collective dangers associated with projections. Embracing these principles can lead to healthier individuals and societies, creating genuine connections and preventing the escalation of conflicts driven by internal battles. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like. It's been a great way to help spread these videos to a much wider audience. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and join our growing community of like-minded people. As always, thank you so much for your support and engagement. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye for now.